And welcome back to For Such a Time as This Round Table. For such a time as this round table, I am your host, Pastor James Pittman. I am here with my panel members, Professor Abby and Professor Vicki. Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. We are talking about roundtable discussion, the creation of the transgender child. Please, if you would, let me know we're coming in loud and clear. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. We're coming in loud and clear. We would ask that you go to for such a time as this .today, for such a time as this .today, and there is our website. You will be able to keep up with the new content that we put out, even if Big Brother censors us. For such a time as this .today, and Professor Vicki is our social media guru. Vicki, what other platforms are we on? Because someone actually put in the chat that, you know what, I didn't even know you were on Rumble. I found you now. I'm a subscriber. Can you please tell people we're on Rumble? I said, You know what, you're right. I don't know what I was thinking. So, Vicki, what other platforms are we on?
Right, we are on Rumble. I'm still working on uploading all the previous content there. So, of course, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, Instagram, and Parler.
And we are also on Odyssey, which we actually have not talked about
No,
yet.
we haven't.
And that uploaded
We're on what?
everything for us. We are on Odyssey.
Odyssey. That's what do you call it again? A crypto site or whatever?
Yes. We haven't figured it all out yet, but it seems pretty cool.
Okay. So, the creation of the transgender child. Ladies, take it away.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, the title of this came from an article called America's Creation of the Transgender Child. And just the title made me stop and think. You know, a transgender child. The notion, the very idea of that was completely unknown up until this century. Probably, well, Dr. Spack did his number on poor Jazz Jennings I think that was starting in like 2005, 2007.
Who?
Dr. Norman Spack out of Boston Children's Hospital. It was in 2005 or 2007, around about there, that they got a hold of poor Jazz Jennings.
Jazz? You mean poor? Like
Yes.
Jazz Jennings is the name. You're saying poor Jazz Jennings. Okay.
Yes.
Television show, I Am Jazz.
They made a television show out of
A
it?
reality show.
Oh yes. And he, how old was he? He was a twin. There were two of them, and he was I
young.
want to say he was 5
I was gonna
years
say
old
5.
or something
Yep.
that. And anyway, just to follow his story, somebody posted about him recently on Facebook, and they said, and the comment said, you know, when one day when he figures out what has been done to him.
Wait, 5 years old?
Yes.
His parents
when
must
his
have
mother
consented.
took him. Oh yes, his mother was all for it. Of course, Dad was basically
A spectator.
yes, which in and of itself. Anyway, so this whole title, The Creation of the Transgender Child, that's the truth. This is a creation out of pure fiction. And we're finding now with the research we've done that it is a creation of the medical industrial complex pushed by wealthy transgender and gay people.
For what purpose? I mean,
Clearly one of the reasons is to normalize this.
Yeah,
I mean, that's one thing.
demonic.
I mean, and this also comes this critical theory is also involved in the whole gay rights movement, which includes transgenderism. And the other this other article, and we have the addresses posted down below the in the description. And the other article actually makes the point that there are billions of dollars wrapped up in this now. But we'll get into that later, if you can believe it.
billions of dollars to push an ideology, but I have a question because I don't know this. Are they getting anything out? Is there a financial gain for them to push this?
It will get into the figures.
Gotcha.
It is quite hefty.
Oh, so it's about money.
Part of it, at least part of it's about money, but the people who are really pushing it are very wealthy gay and transgender men.
Got it. Okay.
So always follow the money, always.
Follow the money.
That's at least part of it. Although I will say, my daughter said the other day, we were talking about the whole vaccine situation, and she said, Mom, I hope this is about the money, because if it isn't about the money, the alternative is much, much worse. Anyway, just as an aside.
Yep.
Got it.
So, do we want to start with...
Yes.
Okay, well, you know what? We can actually, all three of us got to know each other really well. I knew Pastor James, but we got to know Vicki really well over the transgender issue that was in our local high school.
Yes.
Right.
When they came to 215, and Vicki, if you want to just briefly, run down that situation for people.
Yeah, back in 2015, our high school district 211 was the first district found to be not in compliance of President Obama's executive order. And so he was threatening the removal of our federal funding if we didn't provide full unrestricted access to the girls' locker room at Fremd High School to a biological boy, so he could change clothes right next to the girls.
In the locker room.
In the locker rooms, yep. So we found, long story short, there were about 50 families who joined a lawsuit and to push back against this, thanks to the wonderful folks at Alliance Defending Freedom who offered to be our attorneys. So that's when it came to our town, was 2015. But the first clinic that was opened in America for a gender clinic for children was in 2007 at Boston Children's Hospital, or Boston Hospital.
Right, and let me just say too that when that whole thing happened here in 2015, 2016, they had an education session where what would we call them? Gender experts.
Yep.
Right.
Came from
Lurie.
Lurie Children's Hospital.
Yes, I was there.
And I at the time I was just thinking to myself, what on earth could have happened to the doctors at Lurie that they would suddenly start pushing this on kids or doing these kind of procedures and the puberty blockers and all, and these active what did we just call them?
They were consultants.
They were consultants.
The district hired that taxpayers had to pay for to come, and they held evening indoctrination sessions for parents and students to attend. And I'll never forget that night. And one of the consultants said that there were more than two genders.
No, she said more than that.
Well, hang on.
Hold on.
Okay,
So
we were all there.
We weren't allowed to take.
Okay.
They wouldn't let us ask questions out loud. You were only able to write them on a note card.
That's
so
correct.
I submitted a question. Well, how many genders are there?
That's correct.
And she read my question, and she said, well, I think we're up to about 50 now. And her co-presenter said, no. It's actually up to 900.
That's the number I remember.
900 different gender identities.
That's the number I
and
remember.
they told us, how do you know if somebody is transgender or, identifies as one of these 900, not kidding, they said 900
Yes,
gender
they
identities.
That's seared into my mind. That's
She
why I remember.
said,
There were more than 50. I remember
Yep.
that.
She said, you ask them. That's it.
Yep,
you
you
just
ask
ask them.
Yep.
And that's all the proof.
Yep.
Yes.
The number 900 for the rest of my life will be seared into my mind.
Oh my gosh, from that evening.
I remember
right?
that. 900, over 900 genders. And I remember sitting there. I don't know, Vicki, if you were around us, but when she said that, I think I said it kind of loud, what's the third one? You all the way up to 900. Tell me the third
my
one.
gosh.
What's the third one? So yeah.
Well, anyway, I just brought that up because we were talking about money, and I at the time I'm thinking, what on earth could have happened to the health care workers and the doctors at this hospital that they would be supporting this
Right.
and doing this? And
Right.
so I found out in one of the articles that's posted below that what happened was Jennifer Pritzker gave a great big donation to the hospital.
Wait, you mean the Illinois Pritzker?
Yep. Jennifer's,
You mean the ruling family of Illinois?
that's right. Jennifer Pritzker used to be James Nicholas Pritzker.
Wait. Say that again. I didn't hear you.
I know you heard it. Jennifer Pritzker used to be James Nicholas Pritzker.
Oh, wonderful.
And so he gave a real hefty donation to the hospital to establish this whole gender department.
Yep.
And that's what happened. Anyway.
And so, just as a definition, the transgender means the gender that you're born to, whether it be male or female. You can somehow for those who don't know, you can change, and you will transition from the gender you were born in to another gender.
Yeah, we have
Now-
that clip from the doctor at Boston. If you want to play that one, it helps set the table a
Is
little
that-
bit
which-
on what they're doing in these gender clinics.
So, is that's the bad doctor, right?
Dr. Roberts, I believe it's clip number 2.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, here we go. Hold on, let me make sure. There we go. Here we go.
I'm Dr. Stephanie Roberts. I'm a pediatric endocrinologist in the Gender Multispecialty Service. Non-binary is an umbrella term used to describe a gender identity that falls outside the gender binary of male or female. For some parents, this can be an abstract concept, and it can be helpful to think about gender on a spectrum or continuum. For some non-binary youth, they may identify as masculine or feminine leaning, as agender, or sometimes even a third gender outside of male or female. Others may identify as gender fluid, meaning they have a fluctuating gender identity. Gender identity may change over time. Some young people may identify as transmasculine or transfeminine and later as non-binary, or vice versa. Just ask. Many non-binary young people use they, them, or other gender-neutral pronouns. With a little practice, you can easily begin incorporating these pronouns into your everyday language. Some non-binary youth choose to pursue aspects of social, medical, or surgical transition, or none at all. Every young person's transition is highly individualized, and there's no one right way to transition. The options for medical transition are the same as those for transfeminine or transmasculine youth. I like to explore which aspects of one's experience is causing the most gender dysphoria and see what we can do to reduce that. For example, for someone who is birth assigned female, some options may include chest binding or potentially a medication to stop the menstrual cycle. Alternatively, for someone who is assigned male at birth, one option may be a medication that can reduce facial hair growth. For both assigned sexes, puberty blocking medications, gender affirming hormones, or surgeries may be part of one's transition. At GEMS, we are passionate about caring for all gender diverse youth.
And that was brought to you by Lake of Fire Productions.
Yeah. Yes.
So I don't know what to say.
That was one insanity from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
So what's interesting too, so like I said, this gender clinic opened in 2007. It wasn't until 2015 that the NIH gave the Boston Hospital $5.7 million for the first U.S. study to see how these treatments, how these drugs are.
What year was that?
2015. 8 years after they opened the clinic, they did their first study.
Yeah.
We said it from the beginning. This is a giant experiment
Yep.
on children. It's a mad scientist experiment on children.
And I don't. Okay, I'll hold off.
And so, in this article, America's Creation of the Transgender Child, it talks about the American Academy of Pediatrics, which really figured largely in the testimony towards our school because they are 100% in favor of this. So this has a few implications too, and I'll just read to you about this. So the American Academy of Pediatrics also opposes public policies which seek to divide participation in sport by sex. They believe that those the policies that ensure women and girls aren't disadvantaged, they are framed by this organization as, quote, harming transgender youth. And the AAP statement opens with, quote, with alarm and dismay, pediatricians have watched bills advance through state legislatures across the country with the sole purpose of threatening the health and well-being of transgender youth.
Yeah, and again, this whole idea of a transgender child
Exactly.
is new, because gender dysphoria is not new. It's been around forever. But the vast majority, between 80 and 95% of the children who suffer from gender dysphoria will, if left alone, will
Right.
end up identifying with their biological sex if they're allowed to if you just give them love and patience and time, you don't affirm them, you don't, you just leave them alone, and they will. Because I had heard during our whole battle at 211, people would reach out to me when I wasn't getting death threats. There were other people saying, don't stop talking, because I was that child, and I'm so grateful I did not grow up today, because now I'm a happily married mother of 2, and I know what would have happened to me if what was happening today was going on then. And then I also heard from people who said, I mutilated my body and now I'm suicidal. And so you can't make life-altering decisions before the brain is fully formed. I mean, it's ludicrous.
We don't let what do we let children decide for themselves? I mean, there's a whole host of things.
Right.
Like most things, children do not get to decide. Their parents decide, but somehow, and why is that? Because they're children.
Right.
But somehow a child knows that it's okay. This is just child abuse.
It is.
You
It is.
can't put it any other way. And this is like, it's just from the pit of hell.
Jack says, I remember when Americans looked down on the Asian practice of foot binding. Now they promote chest binding.
Yeah.
The world is a different world. To put more Christian context to this, again, this is why this is so important. And God said, let us make man, typo, in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So the question becomes, why does God now put in later on a few chapters, 18 chapters later, the whole thing of Sodom and Gomorrah in there, and why such harsh judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah? It's because the sin of homosexuality distorts the whole purpose of the sexes. He created the male and female to reflect, I believe, the one essence yet plural nature of God. And man reflects that in his creator. Well, if homosexuality mars the theological implications of reflecting the image of God, if homosexuality does that, what does transgenderism do? It's a step up from the sin of homosexuality. It is a step up against the flaunting of God creating man in his own image. That is why it is so dangerous. It is so dangerous, and God is not, he's not going to sit back and let man mar his image like that. It is so incredibly dangerous.
And what we are doing too, in its most basic essence, is we are encouraging children to reject their own bodies.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Their own healthy bodies that are fearfully and wonderfully made. I mean, it does leave me. It's like I don't have the words to just describe how insidiously perverse that is.
Right. It's like encouraging someone with anorexia nervosa to say, yes, you're right, you are overweight. Let's get down to your, 80 pounds or whatever.
And so
it's a sickness.
it's very sick. So when Vicki, what was that, 2015, at the end of 2015, Vicki calls the church and says, we need some I'm sorry, 2015, that's 15. We need some pastors to come and simply read the book of Genesis. I said, of course, Vicki, you'll have 10, 15 pastors there, right? So I said, I'll come. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to these guys, and I remember to this day, I'm pinching myself. I'm literally pinching myself, because I'm saying, what is wrong with me? Am I in a dream? Am I awake? Am I hearing this right? They're talking about people with male plumbings are actually women. Where have I been? What rock have I been living under? But you know what? To this day, I'll say it, and I don't care. I'll say it. The most heartbreaking thing in that whole experience was afterwards. I says, Vicki, people don't know. I'm going to send out and notify every pastor in this school district.
Right.
And we are going to flood the next school board meeting.
Right.
I could not get one. Eventually one came.
We got one or two.
No. The ones I've got, Calvin, he's not in district.
Right.
John Kirkwood at the time, he wasn't in district.
Right.
I've got one that was Ralph's pastor. Mm-hmm. That's it.
And one from Barrington.
Okay.
But yeah, we thought, once the Christians in 211 find out about this, they'll be up in arms.
Yeah.
I mean, we did get good showings at the school board meetings.
Yes,
but,
we did.
But
the pastors weren't
the
there.
churches really were disappointing.
Yeah.
Just incredibly, because again, this is about children.
Right.
And God's design is for children to have parents to guide them and help them to not make decisions while they're young and their brains aren't fully formed, to make these decisions that are going to affect them for the rest of their life. It's to help them, make good decisions. And they are separating. They're putting a huge wedge between children and their parents.
Yes. And I remember the argument. We were vilified when we went to these school board meetings, saying you are hurting the children. You are hurting the children. You're talking down on them. And I remember saying, wait a minute, we're making the children feel bad. You guys are the one telling them they're born in the wrong body, not us.
Right.
You're
We're telling
teaching them to
we
hate
love
their
you,
own
we
bodies.
care about you. There's no one right way to be a girl. There's no right way to be a boy. Be a girl. Who cares how you dress?
Yeah.
Dress how you want.
Yeah.
But you can't change your biological sex.
No.
Just be who you were born to be, and then live your life. But don't listen to these people who say you need to change and mutilate your body, which now there are, as of about a year ago, there were 45 pediatric gender clinics across America. 45 pediatric, not for adults, for children, to mutilate their bodies. It's evil.
Yeah, it's hard for me. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, too. And so at the time, I thought, my goodness, if these pastors won't stand up to defend children
In their own district.
What on earth would they defend?
Families
What
that
would
sit
they
in
fight
their
for?
own churches and their own pews. They will not help define what God created, the most basic level, their sex. If they won't fight for that, what would if? And you know what? 2020 showed us they won't fight for much.
Anything. Nothing. Oh, except for the ones on the other side. Those quote unquote pastors.
Yeah.
They'll fight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So look. Let me read Cynthia. Cynthia says this. She says, when I was 4 years old, I asked my dad what it was like when he was a little girl. I clearly did not understand gender. And that's a 4-year-old child who's now can tell her mommy and her daddy that she's in the wrong body. Really? Which leads to this next video about the case, what is in the UK, right?
Kira Bell.
Here we go.
Lives are changed at the Tavistock Centre, and what happens here has long drawn attention. Questions about how and whether children should be able to reassign their gender. Children like Kira Bell, who never imagined her story would lead her here.
I'm I'm delighted at the judgment of the court today. It was a judgment that will protect vulnerable people. I wish it had been made for me before I embarked on the devastating experiment of puberty blockers. My life would be very different today.
Kira was 16 when she went to the Tavistock Centre. She started receiving hormone blockers and later surgery to become Quincy. She regretted the decision, and today, in a landmark ruling, a judge said her case had shown it's doubtful 14 and 15-year-olds could understand long-term risks of treatment, and highly unlikely children under 13 can give competent consent.
I was extremely upset and, just realising how traumatic the experience was and how deceitful I feel that the clinicians were during my care. It was heartbreaking. Medical transition doesn't have to be the way for you. You can come out of this the other end.
That is so heartbreaking to see that. That was a young lady who was allowed to mutilate her body. And now she's regretting it.
Yep, she detransitioned, but that only goes so far.
Really?
Right.
You can't
go all the way back.
You can't go all the way back.
No.
And actually the UK has kind of regained a little bit of its sense. Much more so than we have here. Apparently, large numbers of staff at their leading gender identity services have resigned over recent years because they are concerned about the influence of lobby groups and the affirmation approach, which is the approach of encouraging kids in an opposite sex gender. And in 2020, December, so that was very recent, 3 UK High Court judges ruled that the use of puberty blockers to treat children with gender dysphoria was, quote, experimental.
I think that was the case that they were talking. Yeah.
Oh, maybe that was the same case then. Yeah, you're probably right. So clinics across the UK are now effectively barred from prescribing puberty blockers to those under 16, and there are restrictions on their use by older adolescents.
And honestly, did it take a judge to inform us of that?
Yeah.
Did we need a judge? Do we need someone just simply because
Apparently
they
we
wore
did.
Apparently so, yeah.
a black robe to tell us that?
And in the U.S., it's a different story. We have doctors talking proudly in public about putting 14-year-old girls into menopause, giving 15-year-olds mastectomies without parental consent.
So there's a feminist, her name is Natasha Chart, and she says, quote, I don't understand why, but there seem to be no ethical breaks on what doctors can do to these kids. End quote.
And the parents who try to push back,
right?
They are told, again, they are told there is no opposition to this. You have to affirm this. You have to go along with your child taking puberty blockers and the wrong sex hormones and surgery. Right. And parents who don't agree, they are having their children literally taken away from them.
Where is this from?
In the United States. This has happened multiple times.
Wait. I thought you was talking about the UK. Say that again.
No, the UK is doing a better job than the United States.
Wait, say that again.
The United States is much worse in this situation than the UK.
Whoa. You're saying parents are losing their children?
Yes.
Because they're not agreeing to the...
Correct.
Yeah, there was a divorce case in Texas.
But you had one crazy mother that was pushing it, though, and the dad was fighting against it.
Right.
But there's multiple cases where the parents disagree and the school districts say, well, you can't. And then the child just does what they want anyway and gets the school district to go along with it. There are multiple cases you can read about where they are putting a wedge between parent and child.
Wow.
And again, the parents...
and the child wants it. The parent says no. Right. And the school
The child
board,
wants it now. Who knows what they're going to want in a year? Like Kira Bell changed her mind.
Yeah, children,
so many kids
children
do.
shouldn't be able to make that decision. But so the school the school board doesn't have that.
Schools.
They can keep it. You can have abortions. You can they keep it from parents.
Oh, they keep a lot of stuff from parents.
Part of the push for this is entails the destruction of parental rights. Period.
You're gonna do that to the wrong father. Somebody
he's going to go to
somebody,
jail.
And you know what? If he's like me, start a jail ministry.
Or the kids just run it. So what happens too is a lot of these kids, they're already vulnerable. They've maybe suffered abuse. They're on the, you hear a lot, I've read a lot about kids on the autism spectrum.
Right. The
Who
girls.
are being, or this girl, she went away to camp one summer and the parents had no idea that she would be sharing a cabin with all these girls who were identifying as male.
Oh my goodness.
So she came home from camp and now she's identifying as male. Between the internet and social media, it's become a contagion.
Right.
And-
Particularly among autistic girls,
Yep.
for some reason, it's called rapid onset gender dysphoria.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter. To these people who push this and affirm, it doesn't matter.
Hold on, Randy. Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. It says you have no idea what you're talking about. If I could go on puberty blockers, I would have avoided decades of depression. So, Randy, am I right to assume that you are for giving these kids these drugs and these interventions? Let me know, Randy. Are you really saying this, Randy? It looks like Randy is pro this. So, well, you put it out there, Randy. You came to our website.
The thing is, the data...
Randy, are you saying that you are now that you have these things, you are in total bliss and total joy? Let me know. Go ahead, Vicki.
The thing is, the data shows that even after surgery, there is no evidence that shows this is helping people. The suicide rate for adults who identify as transgender is 41% of these adults have attempted suicide.
Oh my goodness.
And those who have had surgery are 19% more likely than average to commit suicide. So this is not solving the underlying issue.
Right.
Because there are underlying issues why these children are depressed and think this is their answer. There's so many cases of regret.
Randy, I'll read it since you've come here. I'll read it for you. Being trans is not a decision. It's not a phase. I had the desire to be a woman in 2003 at 17. What happened? Message deleted.
I wonder how old Randy is now.
Oh, he says he's
30. It says it was 34. Go ahead and look at it.
And again, if my personal opinion is, if you are an adult and your brain is fully formed and you want to do what you want to live your life a certain way as an adult, that is your choice. We are focusing on children, young children who are being pushed in a certain direction against the will of their very loving parents.
Yeah.
Again, if they still feel this way when they're in their mid-20s, as free adults, they can do what they want to do. Now, of course, I still, as a Christian, know that God made male and female, but again, our focus is on children.
And Randy, I would love to hear your views on deity, on God, because in order to take a position where you believe that you can transition from one sex to the other, how does that square with God? Right. And if you, Randy, if you're going to sit up and say you don't believe in God, then there's some other issues going on, and that may be the reason why there was depression at 17. Had nothing to do with hormones. Had nothing to do with hormones. Had nothing to do with whether you were trapped in the wrong body, which we do not believe is possible. Being trans is not a decision. It was not a phase. I had the desire to be a woman in 2003. At 17, I'm transitioning at 34. Randy, I would love to talk to you and work this through and ask questions and give you a platform later on for such a time as this. Email me at, I'll type in the email, and we can go on from from there. But we do believe it is a decision. We do believe it is not God's will for that to happen.
And I want to say, too, that I think a good way of looking at this is that they are turning children into lifelong medical patients.
Right.
Because this is not something, this fiction has to be maintained
Right.
by medications. Not that, not that are curing a sick person, but are changing a healthy person and experimenting on them. My doctor, I had some symptoms, just to be a little personal here, of menopause. Mm-hmm. And my doctor said, I could give you estrogen, which is the female hormone, right? And it would fix these things, but I can't do that in good conscience because estrogen is known to cause cancer. Mm-hmm. And that's in a woman. So what is it doing to little boys?
Right.
A lifelong
Right.
doses all their entire life, year after year, day after day, week after week,
Right.
of female hormones.
Right. Yeah, to put these children, make them become lifelong patients, taking medicines, and it's extremely expensive. Plus, it's extremely, it's a horrible way to live. To be a
Yes.
patient all the time. And these surgeries, I don't know how graphic we want to be, but when they try to, recreate something in a male transitioning to female to create, that private area, the body doesn't accept that, and it treats it what their what their affirming surgery is. The body sees it as a wound,
Right, that it tries
keeps
to heal.
trying to heal and close. So they constantly have to be, I don't want to get
Manipulating
yes,
things.
doing things to their body on a daily basis to try and feel like, that they have a female body. But the body, God designed the body to heal itself.
Yep, and the body is constantly rejecting foreign substances, constantly trying to heal. And so I've worked on in the hospital. When you take certain psychotropic drugs, you have to come in what's called med adjustments, right? It's because the body has built up a resistance to it. Why? Because the body is fighting against it.
Right.
Same thing with the hormones. Same thing with it. It sees it as something foreign, a foreign invader, and it tries to, like you say, heal. That's why you got to keep doing it. I was told it was as an accident, Randy. I think we deleted or hid some things here. That was done on accident. I apologize. If you could email me at that email, and we can set something up. But going forward, again, if and you know what, it goes back to this: your worldview. Is there a God who created man? Is there a God who is going to judge? Is that true? That's your worldview. If that's true, then you have a basis from now which to work on. If you think that some sort of way we crawled out of the goo, then you're going to be a lot more loose with your interpretation and understanding of creation. Then you're going to, hey, if I crawled out of the goo, then all things work. It's perfectly fine. But if there's a creator God who created man, you know what? It's worth it. Let me put it up there again. See, if you believe this right here, if this is what you believe, God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion, fish, birds of heaven, and over livestock, over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. Two, binary. Male and female, he created them. If that is the basis by which you work on, then there is no such thing as a third or 900th gender. Mm-hmm. That the decision that Randy thinks that he or she did not have, there's a decision. It's a decision to do those things, and I don't want to go too far into it, but usually, Randy, there are things that happen in a young person's life that distorts the perception and understanding of gender, that causes the confusion or whatnot. Now, I'm not saying it's 100%, but man, it's very clear. There's two genders, and Randy, if you just help me out, tell me the third one. Just help me. I've been asking that question for years. Just tell me what the third gender is, and just help me out. Help me out.
And I wanted to kind of turn us then towards, a part of what's driving this.
Please.
There is an article. It's called Stryker Corporation and the Global Drive for Medical Identities. And the article basically says that puberty blockers, wrong sex hormones, invasive surgeries on young people's sex organs is not a human rights movement, but it is driven by the medical industrial complex for profit. So apparently, in 2017, John Stryker, this guy was the heir to the Stryker Medical Corporation, which is huge. I mean, he's a multi-billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
So he is also gay, and he funded his LGBT non-governmental organization called the Arcus Foundation for $500 million. Now, get this, and who would have thunk it? The projected market growth for amputations of healthy sex organs and medically constructed faux sex organs is being reported at anywhere between $1.5 billion to $200 billion, depending on who's doing the reporting.
Wait, say that again, Abby.
I couldn't believe it either. The
Say it
projected
again.
market growth for amputations of healthy sex organs and medically constructed.
You mean how much it costs to do the procedure?
Yeah, it's the how much the market's worth. How
much the market's worth.
Is what I'm thinking.
It costs that much to chop things off? I mean,
No.
Multiply it by how many people.
This is like it's a $200 billion market
Business.
that these companies want to tap into.
That's what I'm saying. It costs that much to start lopping things off?
No. It's aggregate. In the aggregate.
No, I know.
But
it
you're
doesn't
saying
cost
to get to
$200
that number, it has
Yeah.
to be pretty expensive to
Oh.
start
That's
with.
what I'm saying.
Yes.
I know it don't cost $200 billion to lop one thing off, Abby.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
That's what I'm saying. But it's not a dollar to lop things off. You ain't getting
No,
the
it's a
$200
lot
billion.
of money.
That's what I'm saying. Those
And insurance
procedures
is
are that
covering
much.
it in
Yes.
a lot of cases.
Oh,
And so
my.
the fact that insurance will cover it means that it's
Wonderful.
going
That's beautiful.
It's a
increasing.
huge business.
Oh,
And-
that's beautiful.
And plus, the government, the Affordable Care Act.
That was in there?
Yes, the Affordable Care Act is the government policy in the U.S. that provides insurance to the transgender and gender nonconforming population. So the Affordable Care Act, we're paying for it as taxpayers. This was initiated by President Obama, of course, who was helped into office by Penny Pritzker. They're just everywhere. Their fingerprints it's like evil fingerprints all over everything. Of the billionaire Pritzker family, who is also the governor of the great state of Illinois, have investments in both the medical, in this medical industrial complex. And then, of course, Penny Pritzker's cousin, Jennifer, who we talked about before, who used to be
You mean James?
Yes, has funded myriad gender programs in medical, military, and educational institutions across the globe. So this is very much being driven.
So it's about money.
I'm going to say some of it's about money and some of it is very much ideological. I mean, the billionaires driving this are gay and transgender.
And breaking down the family.
Yeah,
breaking
and that's all
down
part
our
of
whole
it too.
culture.
But Satan offers money to do his bidding, or he offers the reward of wealth and riches to do his bidding. And so they're destroying kids' lives and making money from it.
Yeah.
Could there be anything more evil than using children to make money
You know,
while destroying their lives?
some people get upset or disturbed at the mere fact that the lake of fire is tormented forever. This is the type of stuff that says they deserve it.
Right. Because, the LGBT movement is often portrayed in the media as, a marginalized group. But the reality,
in what way?
but they are they have so much power and money
Yes.
and influence.
How on earth are they? I'm always like, okay, give me an example. I'm waiting. I'm still waiting.
Right.
I've been saying this for years. Give me an example of the ways they are oppressed and marginalized.
They're oppressed
They're
because
in charge.
because we're talking about them right now. That's how they're oppressed. That we're still talking about it. Look, this is
And
listen.
these pharmaceutical companies are making so much money on these puberty blockers. It's incredible.
Wow.
I read the number. This was back in 2017, so not even a recent number, and it was $669 million for Lupron was the market back then.
And what's that?
That's a puberty blocker.
How much?
The market was $669 million in 2017.
How much them things cost?
I don't know,
we
but
know?
if you have, I mean, there's so many. Again, it's becoming a fad. I mean, you
Right,
can't
it's
ask
spreading.
a kid these days who goes to the public schools if they all know somebody who's doing this.
Oh my goodness! I
And-
wouldn't send my kid to a public school today if you over my dead body.
I would rather send my kid to Afghanistan in the military than to send him to a public school right now.
Yeah.
And as we know, the pharmaceutical lobby is the largest lobbying entity in Congress.
Do you remember when? Do you remember when? Do you remember when Democrats used to talk bad about Big Pharma?
I do.
Oh.
I actually do.
We are old
I
enough
remember.
to remember, yeah.
I remember Big Pharma. I guess they're buddies now because they're getting paid from it. I mean, again, if God moved so much so on the city and region of Sodom and Gomorrah, this should. Everybody who lives in the United States of America should be concerned.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody. Everybody.
Absolutely. Oh, and I forgot when we were talking about it. But in Canada, that poor dad who refused to recognize his daughter as a boy, they sentenced him
Yes, they did.
to jail. I mean,
my
he's going to
gosh.
prison.
Yeah.
I
they
suppose he's
did.
already there.
Yes, they did.
So, I mean, what area of life has this not impacted? It's affected the medical field, psychology, sports, of course, schools and school curriculum, our laws, many churches, the language. They've changed the language.
Yep.
Oh, they are past masters at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is...
Yeah.
Mm.
It's a tidal wave. It's just a tidal wave in every direction.
And they've redefined, you know, they're trying to redefine in the culture what it means to be a parent. That you just affirm. And
You
can't-
give birth, and then the government will raise your child.
You can't say anything or we'll take your child away from you. Or
All
encourage
right.
them to run away.
All right, Abby and Vicky, give us some hope. Give us at least.
Okay, so there is some good news.
Okay.
In
All right.
Arkansas, the House and Senate in the state of Arkansas overrode the governor's veto. So that bill will
Amen.
become law this summer
Oh.
that bans puberty blockers.
Yeah, Asa Hutchinson
wrong
vetoed
sex
it.
hormones. He vetoed it.
And he got
Yes.
vetoed.
And then
Yes.
they overrode his veto.
Oh,
so,
wow. Good.
Yeah, you can put the applause button on for that.
Yeah. So that is good news out of
There we
Arkansas to protect children and protect parental rights. And there are, I believe, I read 14 other states who are looking at similar bills, passing similar bills.
When I move, if I move out of Illinois at some point,
gonna
I'm
be
going to
one
look
of
at that list.
Yep.
There's still sanity left in a few of these states.
Yeah. You know when I'm sorry, I got to do it. Let me see if this is what I want right here. Let me, hold on. It's just when you think about these people here. When you think about these people, here's what I this movie clip that I think about.
ha, ha, ooh, he, ha, ha. And I thought my jokes were bad.
Okay, that's the wrong one. Here we go.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
There you go.
That
there
is
you
so
go.
true.
There's no. You truly have to be demonically controlled. There is no other way to put it. You have to be demonically controlled to think that what you are doing to children and their sexuality with the transgender issue, you have to be demonically controlled to think you are doing good. I mean, how far gone do you have to be in order to do this? I mean, and listen, I remember at one time, even the liberals used to agree with those who are more conservative. We're not going to talk about sex with children. Wait till they're 18 and then we can fight about. Then Larry Flint and what's the other one with Playboy? Hugh Hefner. Then we can try to get them to smut. But let's wait till 18. Now, children. I remember
4-year-olds.
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 I remember it was detrimental, and we can all agree that Playboy shouldn't be given to 4-year-olds, 6, 7-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 10-year-olds. Now this is happening. Not only are they looking at it, they're participating in this foolishness. All right, Abby, give us some hope. Vicki gave us some hope. Give us some hope.
Boy, I think Vicki has all the hope tonight.
Vicki has all the hope tonight.
I don't know. There are several states, though. It wasn't just Arkansas that are passing laws to protect girls and women's sports, at least.
Yeah.
But, I mean, so much more is needed.
And for the people that stand back and look at this and say and do nothing, I'm shocked.
I mean, the good news is more people are waking up every day. There's another good thing is that this is an issue that does bring people who sometimes have nothing else in common, like radical feminists and conservative Christian women. It brings them together on this issue. That something really is wrong in our culture when those two groups of women can come together and fight together on something.
And for those who are afraid to stand up on this issue.
Do you think I'm afraid? I think you've been afraid all your life.
Yes, they are afraid, and they've been afraid, and they've probably been cowards their whole life. We just, all right, here's my hope. Christ is coming back.
Yeah, I got that too.
And he is going to set things right. And for those of you who continue to mutilate children, it's going to be a sad day. It's going to be a very, very sad day for those.
And I would just like to real quick also say, if this ever gets to the ears of somebody who is struggling with their gender identity, I mean, in 2011, parents were telling their children that I and others hated them, which of course could not be further from the truth and broke my heart. So if anyone out there is struggling, we do not hate you. Far from it. We love you. Love you. We love you and want the best for you.
Yes.
We just disagree
This
that
is
telling
not
you
it.
this is not it. Destroying your body is not the answer. There is another way.
Yes. And look, God is real. And I think if that message is not brought across, you won't have hope. You won't have anything to look forward to. And the only hope you have is lopping off body parts and taking puberty blockers. When you've gotten to that point, something is desperately wrong.
But no matter how far you go down the wrong road, you can always turn around.
Always.
Yes.
His grace is sufficient. Well, thank you,
Amen.
Prof. Abby. Thank you, Prof. Vicki. Wow, what a time we live in. I hope the Lord is around the corner, and if He is around the corner, My message to all is get right with the king. Kiss the son, lest he be angry. Thank you very much. God bless you. Turn to him. Ask him for forgiveness, and you will have the